And they hired J. Edgar Hoover with the expressed intention of destroying the Garvey movement. In fact, when I get to heaven, I got to ask God a question. And my question to the Lord is this. This homosexual cross-dressing J. Edgar Hoover destroyed every major leader from Marcus Garvey to Huey P. Newton. Why did you let him live so long? Garvey was the 20s. They murdered Huey in the 80s. Hoover died in what, like the 60s? But he still had a hand in all of that went on with the Panthers. 72 was when Hoover died? Look at that. This man destroyed Garvey, Malcolm, Black Power, Black Liberation, everybody. A. Philip Randolph. What's the other brother? The actor Paul Robeson. This man just destroyed everything we got. Why did he live so long? The first full-time FBI agent, black, was hired to infiltrate the Garvey movement. And then a lot of people Marcus Garvey had working with him sabotaged the organization. They tried to kill him one time. They came to his office, pulled out the gun, cocked at Garvey and Amy Ashwood. No, it was Amy Jakes, I believe it was, who jumped in front of the bullet. Barely missed her and Garvey. And then they found the guy, locked him up, and before he could go to trial, he was found hanging from his cell. He was a paid FBI hitman. And you know what's so sad about the Garvey thing? The primary black leaders of the time got together and started a Garvey Must Go campaign. And they went to the United States government. Listen to this. Negro hate, listen to this. And these leaders wrote a letter to the President of the United States and said, can you please get rid of this Negro? He was not born here. He is not American by birth. He is from Jamaica. He is causing trouble. And we think it would be in the best interest of you and us if he get the hell up out of here. Look at that. What kind of a leader goes to white folks? Right. Garvey first shipped the SS Frederick Douglass. Then he had the Phyllis Wheatley. And every time a ship sunk, the black folks came back together, put another ship out there. And when the Black Star Line got blacklisted, they went to Delaware, incorporated the Black Star Line Steam Crawl Ship Corporation. White folks said, how the hell does this man raise this kind of money in a day? Then they ordered him down to the Attorney General office and they said, be careful with your Black Star Liner. And then they arrested him in 1922, I believe, or 23. For doing what? Using the United States mail to sell stock in a steamship that Garvey did not yet own, but was planning on buying. W.E.B. Du Bois' problem was he thought he had a right to lead. This is why he hated Garvey. This is why he worked to destroy Garvey. And I honor him for the good that he did, because he did some good. One of our most prolific scholars. But he had the curse of the scholar. What is the curse of the black scholar? Most scholars have never been able to lead mass movements. Dr. King is the only PhD in history in this country that led a mass movement. Cornel West could never lead a mass movement. He ain't got the street credit. Tavis Smiley ain't got the street credit. Michael Eric Dyson, his suits are too small and he ain't got the street credit. The boy had the same curse. He had no street credibility. He could write articles and shit, but he couldn't capture the attention. See, the boy issue was this. I'm half Jew, half German, half Irish, all this. And Garvey called him half crazy for thinking you different because you got some white blood. The boy got a doctorate from Harvard, one of the first blacks to ever get a doctorate from Harvard. He wasn't supposed to be. Guess who was the first black who should have got a doctorate from Harvard? Dr. Martin Delany, one of the grandfathers of Pan-Africanism, the first black ever admitted into Harvard, and he was admitted in Harvard Medical School. This is the 1800s, and he was in Harvard Medical, but he didn't finish. Why? The white students led a protest and said, we will not come to class until this Negro is gone. And they kicked Martin Delany out of Harvard. True story. So the boy said, I'm Harvard, Berlin, University of Pennsylvania. I'm the man. White folks then gave me every stamp you can get. He said I had to wait till Frederick Douglass died. I had to wait till Booker T. Washington died. And now it's my turn. I'm the Negro leader. And as soon as he said that, this little chubby Jamaican gets off the banana boat. It says, up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will and organize more black folk than any leader before or since. The boy never forgave Garvey for taking his opportunity. That's why he destroyed. Do you know that this Negro went to Liberia on the request of the United States government to destroy Marcus Garvey's Liberian community for people who wanted to repatriate? The president of Liberia invited Garvey to come there and build a community for Africans who want to go home. And Du Bois went over there working for the government, an agent, and destroyed the whole situation. Jealousy. And then after Marcus Garvey dies, he writes a letter to Amy Jakes Garvey and says, I'm sorry for the role I played in destroying your husband and his movement. A little too late as far as I'm concerned. You went out your way because of jealousy. The boy knew Garvey was right. Who was the boy's teacher? Alexander Crummell, one of the grandfathers of Pan-Africanism, who started the American Negro Camp. He taught the boy Pan-Africanism. The boy was a Pan-Africanist. Some people say the father, I don't know what the hell they've been reading. He ain't the father of no Pan-Africanism. You're crazy. But he was jealous. When you study Garvey, you study the jealousy of black leaders. Marcus Garvey gave black women their first opportunity to lead. Universal African Motor Corps was the female military of the Garvey movement. In fact, do you know Marcus Garvey is the reason white women got the vote in America? Yeah. They went to the government and said, this Negro got black women running their own movement. They got guns, they vote. And here we is that still can't vote as white women. You mean to tell me you're going to let this Negro give the black woman more respect than you give us? That's why white women got the right to vote in the 1920s. Because Garvey was giving black women respect that nobody saw from nobody. True story. Do your research. First black woman to run for vice president of the United States. Shirley Chisholm was the first to run for president. The first to run for vice president was Charlotta Bass. She was a Garvey member. Garvey even had airplanes. They had a Universal African Motor Corps. When airplanes was invented, the UNIA had their own planes. So Garvey said race pride. He said identify as being black. He said let your God be black, let Africa be the homeland. He said political power. He said military power. He said let your husband and wife look like you. Garvey was the example for everybody. When is Marcus Garvey finally deported? 1927. Nation of Islam, 1930. No coincidence. You got a 15 million member organization and the leader is no longer here. Everybody scrambled in. Elijah Poole was a Garveyite. He used to belong to the UNIA in Detroit and Chicago. He was a uniform officer. It's no secret, it's a fact. Moorish science temples had their biggest heyday in the 1940s. Why? Because Noble Drew Ali was telling Garveyites that Marcus Garvey gave him a right to lead the movement. In fact, it was Garveyites in Philadelphia who wrote to the State Department asking to let Marcus Garvey come back to America because Noble Drew Ali is acting like Marcus Garvey gave him permission to lead his organization. The Black Hebrews come from Garvey. The Rastafari movement, founded by members of the Garvey movement. The early Hebrews. Nation of Islam first meetings were in Marcus Garvey's Universal Liberty Halls. The first meeting to organize the Nation of Islam was at the Garvey House. No slight, but nothing new under the sun. Malcolm X's mother and father, Earl and Louise Little, members of the Garvey movement. Malcolm's father was murdered doing Garvey work. Malcolm's brothers said we joined the Nation of Islam because it was the closest thing to the Garveyism that our father raised us in. And then Malcolm X, the last year of his life, goes back to that Garveyism, starts the Organization of Afro-American Unity to feed into the African Union. He was trying to finish Garvey's work, but he was assassinated before he could. When Garvey died in 1940, Pan-Africanism suffered a long and silent hiding because everybody who came after Garvey took you somewhere other than Africa. I'm Asiatic. I'm indigenous. And so because of that, we didn't get serious Pan-Africanism again until Malcolm. Most people think the Black Panther Party was the most destroyed black organization ever by the FBI, second to the Garvey movement. Once upon a time, you cannot even say you belong to the UNIA ACL. You couldn't get a job. The Garvey movement was so outlawed, so detested by white folk that you had to hide being a member. South Africa, the most organized country. Puerto Rico and Cuba, more Garvey chapters than any nation on earth. That'd blow your mind today, wouldn't it? Puerto Rico? Cuba? These people don't want to admit they black. But back then they had that red, black, and green. Most of the African revolutions was what? Led by Garveyites, Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Patrice Lumumba. Who came up with United States of Africa? That's not Kwame Nkrumah. Had to tell my brothers in Ghana that. He didn't come up with that. That's Garvey. He borrowed it. Kwame Nkrumah went to Lincoln University. The Nnamdi Azikiwe, who liberated Nigeria, went to Lincoln University. The brother who liberated Malawi went to college in Chicago. It was members of the Garvey movement while they was educated in America. They took Garvey to Africa. That's why there's a black star on Ghana's flag. That's why most African countries have one of the three colors in their flag. Remember, when Garvey created the red, black, and green, there was no flags. It was Portuguese colony, Dutch colony, British colony, French colony, German colony. There was no flags, but out of respect for the work that Garvey did, when freedom came, they all chose some of those colors to represent their people. Brothers and sisters, we got to get back to Garveyism. It's the original do for self philosophy from the black man. But it's the do for self that says you must also contribute to Africa, because as Africa goes, so goes you. And this is the problem with us in America. We think we can fix the black problem without fixing the Africa problem. How? How can you fix the black problem without fixing the Africa problem? Marcus Garvey said what? A strong man is strong anywhere he go. Why do Chinese get respect in LA? The Chinese get respect in New York. The Chinese get respect in Africa because China get respect.